Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy, I think, day 29, 29, 28, 28, 28, 29, 30. Yeah. So, day 28, three, including today, we have three more of these gatherings. Welcome to What the WTF Day 28. Oh, my Lord. If you would like to participate in our live conversation, then go ahead and subscribe, because I have it set to subscribers only mode to help to minimize some of the bot activity. And here we are, counting down to the final installments of what has really been a very, very lovely experience. So happy to see everyone in the chat. Elizabeth, Sophia, L, and Yogi. More on the way, no doubt. And I got some questions, which I love. Thank you. Keep them coming. What we're doing here for these final 3 days, hey, Aaron, is if you have questions kind of, about anything sort of within the spiritual realm, or if there's something that doesn't seem to be a spiritual topic, and you feel like you would like my take on it, I'm happy to offer if I have a take on it. If you have questions about things we've discussed over this past few weeks of this series, if there are things that I've touched on that you want to know more about, things that I haven't touched on that you're curious about, you can even ask personal questions, though I won't be able to give you a reading in this context, but I can certainly speak to the nature perhaps of your question or your query. Because, here we are continuing almost at the 30-day mark, which is our finish line for this series. And let's just see what kind of magic we can continue to make for the last 3 days. I have a live stream coming up this Saturday for the tarot forecast for May. I decided that I wanted to do this one this month because it sounded like fun. And given the bonkers nature of this month and the energies and the astrology and everything else, I figured, I would be really curious to see what the tarot has to say about this month. How are you all doing today? Show me in the comments what's in your heart, what's on your mind. Give me an emoji that sums up your current state, maybe your preferred state, or maybe just your favorite emoji. I don't know. And I have some questions here that we'll get to in a second. And there's not really much that I had to share today. One of the things that I have personally loved about this series and engaging with you in this way is that I don't have to come with anything, right? I can just show up and allow myself to be the transmitter and the receiver of whatever is here today. Whatever's here for you, whatever spirit wants us to know or to share, whatever's here for me or whatever, I don't know. I'm just here doing my thing as the transmitter, as the divine vessel. And that's been really, really fun for me. That's been really, really fun for me. I was sharing with a friend this morning. I said, I'm just having a lot of fun the past few days. Like actually the past couple of weeks, I found myself returning to this place of fun and joy and creating just for the sake of creating and doing just for the sake of doing and following curiosities and allowing myself to explore and express in whatever way feels interesting, rewarding, fulfilling, sparkling, whatever. And I've really, really enjoyed myself. So thank you. Thank you for creating a space for us to connect. Thank you for showing up and listening. Thank you for reminding me that I don't always have to show up with a performance, with something to offer, with something to share or to give. When I do have something that I want to share, I'm happy to share it. But, I found that I had really created this, this pattern where I was just turning it into work, and I was turning it into a burden, and I was turning it into like an effort and slog. And one of the things, I love those, Yogi. One of the things that I have really been leaning into, and this came to me through Richard Rudd, the guy who does the Gene Keys, who was such a lovely, lovely human. I've never met him personally, but I would really love to, because his energy is just so wonderful and peaceful and compassionate and deep. It is just like a big hug. And he has this program called the 7 Days of Grace. It's a free thing. You can sign up for it. I'm not sure where you find the link, but if you just Google 7 Days of Grace, Gene Keys, no doubt you'll find it. And it's a free thing. You sign up, and every day for a week, you get like a packet of information, like a video or a meditation or a mantra or a mudra or so. He offers you something around the idea of grace. And one of the things he talks about on one of the days is this concept that easy is right and right is easy. And that we can choose for things to be filled with ease. We can choose the grace of ease. We can allow ourselves to turn away from the myth that things have to be burdensome, or they have to be hard, or they, excuse me, they have to be difficult, or they have to be, insurmountable. I just don't buy that anymore. No pain, no gain. All right, if you insist, right? Like I don't necessarily believe this myth that we have created that pain and struggle and suffering are the only ways to grow and evolve. They certainly are ways to evolve, and they're quite effective, but I just don't believe that they're the only way anymore. And I feel so good to be back in this place of ease and fun and play and curiosity, and allowing myself to choose ease, allowing myself to choose what feels easy. And that's what I'm doing. And I love it. So questions. So I'm going to just go down the list and that I've been receiving them. And again, we've got a couple of days left. So a couple of ways you can reach out to me. If you want to there's a Linktree link in the description below. You can click that link. There's a form there for you to email me if you have a question. You can also find my email here in my contact info on my channel here. So feel free to send me emails with your questions, your curiosities, what you would like me to comment on or talk about, and I'm happy to do so. So that's a good question, Sophia. Let me get to the other ones, and then if I have time, we'll get to that one. So someone had emailed me asking if I could speak more, and they weren't super clear. So if you're listening to this, there was no information. You just gave me an initial, and it came through my Linktree. So someone had asked, can you please comment further on the idea of animals as sovereign beings and the planet as a sovereign being? I'm assuming that this was related to the conversation we were having a couple of days ago when I was talking about, the idea of diet and how vegetarianism or veganism is a choice that you can make, certainly, but that it's not necessarily holier or more sacred or more spiritual than any other diet. So here's how I see it. And we're going to bring in the topic of karma here, which I'm not a big fan of the topic of karma. I think we've been sold a version of that idea that isn't entirely complete, and yet I digress. So the way that I look at it, and I've shared this before, I'm a lazy vegetarian. I've done periods of being vegan, but I don't commit to a specific diet based upon restriction unless it's what my body wants. And I adhere to a specific diet until my body is asking for something else. And sometimes it can be a little bit of a trick to figure out, like, does my body really want this, or am I just tired of the devotion and the dedication? Does my body really want this, or am I just bored and I want something that I, shouldn't eat or don't want to eat or whatever? But that's really how I eat. I listen to my body. I make my body an active participant in my diet and what I consume. And the way that I see it is animals are just as much a choice in terms of the beings and the intelligence that inhabit the animal for that lifetime. That being is just as sovereign as you or I are. Animals have the same level of importance, the same level of value. They are connected in the same way that we are. They come from the source just as all things do. And they have an awareness. They have a consciousness. And the being that is a part of that animal, or the being that, brings that animal to life, so to speak, the spark in the light bulb, is also making a choice. That being made a choice to be an animal, knowing full well that it was entirely possible that it would be a food source. And that was the being's choice. Here's how I look at it. The being's decision to come into a life as an animal that could potentially be used as a food source, that is that being's karma. That is that being's choice. That is that being's decision. Your karma, my karma, the individual who's going to consume the animal or not, it's entirely up to us. Do we want to honor that as an opportunity or a choice? It's entirely up to you. If you want to eat it, go for it. If you don't, don't. Personally, I always do my best to ensure that the animal products that I'm consuming are as humane and as natural and as organic as they can be, i.e. free range, pasture raised, organic, non-GMO, blah, 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 all of the things. And that is my choice. And when I consume animal product, well, when I consume any food, I say thank you for it before I eat it. I say a little prayer over my food. And if it's an animal, then I am very aware of intentionally thanking the animal for its gift. That's how I see it. So to say that, oh, the poor, helpless, defenseless animal, no, it's not poor anything. It is just as much a part of spirit as you are. And the projection of this idea that the animal is helpless or powerless or has no choice in the matter of its life and how it goes is absolutely 100% patently false. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't be a person who wants to create a reality that is more humane for animals. That doesn't mean that I can't create a sanctuary for animals that were once going to be, killed for food or for experiments or for laboratory purposes or fur or leather or whatever. If someone is creating a sanctuary for them so that they can live out their life, naturally without being a food source or a product for someone else, then that's amazing. That's wonderful. But this idea that somehow you are better than, no, 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 my dear. Don't make it a moral crusade. Don't make this about your ego and needing to feel right or making them wrong so that you can feel more right. That's how I feel about it. And Pixie, that's a good point. You tried vegan and it actually made you sick. I know a lot of people who have gone to vegetarian or vegan diets who ended up having to go back to a protein-based diet or a diet that included animal protein because they were getting sick. They weren't getting enough nutrients. They weren't getting a full spectrum of amino acids and enzymes and proteins. They weren't eating in a way. See, here's the thing. A lot of times people say, oh, I'm vegan or vegetarian. Well, that doesn't mean you're more healthy. Eating packaged, produced, cardboard frozen dinners in a all of that stuff, I don't care if it doesn't contain animal protein. It's still processed. It's still chemical. The idea that you are eating something that is not an animal protein and therefore it is better for you, no, girl, that is completely and totally false. The reason that I tend to be lazy sometimes when it comes to vegetarianism and veganism is there's a lot more effort required in a vegetarian diet to ensure that I get everything that I need. And sometimes I haven't done the groundwork to prepare myself. And so in a moment of starvation, I'm not going to eat garbage, prepackaged chemically laden garbage. If I choose to eat animal protein because it is more convenient than, doing all the things that I have to do. Look, it just takes more work from my perspective to eat vegetarian and vegan. And that's the choice that I made because I don't want to eat prepackaged, mass-produced food, period. I don't care if it's vegan or otherwise. So I digressed a little bit, but animals are sovereign. Animals have made their choice, and there is nothing helpless or hopeless about an animal. And animals often give themselves to us as a food source or to experience what we would call a horrific thing, but that serves a greater purpose because their suffering or their mistreatment, because I do believe in the humane treatment of animals. I don't think they should be in a cage, locked in a factory somewhere and never seeing the light of day or feeling grass under their feet or their hooves or paws or whatever. So I think it's understanding that, this animal is also making a choice, and how you want to defend them is up to you. What kind of life you want to create for them is up to you. And if an animal's suffering inspires you to create a world where that doesn't exist, go for it. Good on you. I love that. And that is a passion that I think is really, really important. And we all have our piece of the pie in terms of our passions and what we came here to do. So just because someone isn't focused specifically on animal welfare doesn't mean that they're a monster and that they don't love animals. And just because someone is focused on animal welfare and chooses not to eat them doesn't mean that they're better than the people who do. That's how I feel. So planet is sovereign. To me, it's the same thing. Yes, the planet is going through some really crazy stuff. And yes, a lot of it is humans being lazy or humans being entitled or humans being greedy or humans just not understanding the outcome of their choices, right? So the planet is sovereign. She chose to have the experience she is having. She is allowing us to inhabit her in the way that we are, to the degree that it aligns with her mission and her goal and her path. She allows things to, like depletion and disasters and chaos and insanity on her surface, to occur. Again, so that we can go, wait, is that really how it has to be? Wait, is that the healthiest way? Is that the smartest way? Is that the most effective, efficient, humane way? So, animals and plant and, the earth are really, really beautiful, beautiful beings to think about in terms of the sacrifices that they have made, what they have offered to be for humans and for humanity as a means to support us in our reconnection and our reawakening and our return to the remembrance of who and what we really are. So, yes, I do intend that someday I'm going to get to the point where I am living a vegan diet or primarily a vegan diet. And as long as the body's healthy and has everything that it needs, I'm going to go for it. As long as I create the time and make the time and dedicate the time, I'm going to go for it. But that's my choice. So that's a little bit more on animals as sovereign and the planet as sovereign beings. If that was you who sent me that message, if that wasn't exactly what you were asking, then please let me know. I'm happy to discuss again that topic. Okay, so I have another email. Here's my question. I've been fast track evolving for years, and it seems to be broader, deeper, and faster as time goes on. Amazing. Yes, it is. Through these processes, my old identity has melted away, and I have yet to find the spark of what to do with myself. I am the support for others, but when I ask, crickets. I have ideas, but I'm single, self-employed, alone, thoughts. What I would say, because I read this email this morning, and thank you for this email, by the way. I read this email this morning, and I kind of thought about it a little bit. Speaking as someone who has recently gone through, in the past couple of years, the complete and total collapse of old, outdated, and false identities, and as someone who has had to re-find myself, recreate myself, reclaim myself, and basically find my center again, I understand how disorienting and daunting and a bit overwhelming it can be to try to figure out, well, who am I now? What do I want now? What's interesting or exciting or pleasurable or fulfilling, whatever now? I call it the Goldilocks moment. And you mentioned in your email, you said, I have ideas, but I'm single, self-employed, and alone. I would challenge your ideas of what single, self-employed, and being alone means in terms of limitations on you, because that little sentence was very telling to me, and I could be reading into it in a way that isn't necessarily correct, but that sentence was very telling to me. It says, I have ideas, but I'm single, self-employed, and alone. So do you believe that being single, self-employed, and alone stands in your way? Do you believe that that's a deficit? Do you believe that there's some sort of deficiency there, or that makes it harder? So if that is the case, then perhaps redefining your definitions of what single, self-employed, and alone means and what it affords you or not might be interesting. Aside from that, what I would do is just give yourself permission to play. Give yourself permission to be curious, to try. I'm assuming that within the construct of your day, right, you're as a self-employed individual who's helping people, and it sounds to me like you're working steadily enough, then give yourself some dedicated time either on a day or throughout each day or specific day, whatever works for your schedule, where you just get to try. Start a list on your phone or Post-its on the wall or whatever of things that you think are interesting, that you might want to try, that you're curious about. Maybe you've wanted to be a baker, go take a baking class. Maybe you've wanted to be a painter, go take an art class, right? Like giving yourself the permission to try before you buy, to sample little things, Goldilocks, right? Oh, that was too hot. Ooh, that's too cold, but ooh, this is just right. Because what I found when I was letting go of all of these old layers of identity, there were a lot of things that I loved to do, but for some reason, at some point, I had decided that they weren't, responsible, or they weren't realistic or reasonable or whatever. And I was like, wait a minute, I used to love to do this. I wouldn't tell myself not to do something that I loved. The only reason that I would have stopped doing it is because someone else told me that it was stupid or silly, or it was time to grow up, or, be responsible or whatever. So first of all, I started challenging my own beliefs about what was responsible or professional or whatever. That gave me a whole lot of permission just to get back to the things that I love to do. And so I started making a list. I love to bake. I love to garden. I love to talk. I love to paint. I love to write. I love to draw. I love to dance. I love to move. So I just started writing the list of all the things that I love to do. And I just gave myself permission to do them just because I love them. Here's the thing. Whatever it is that you end up doing is going to be prompted by the love of something, right? Either the love of money, the love of authority, the love of free time, the love of, self-management, the love of flexibility or whatever. So again, it's like the emotional architecture. Focus on the feeling, energy, emotional, or experiential words you would like your life to be constructed from, right? Think of like you're weaving some fabric. So what am I going to weave it from? Well, I like freedom, I like flexibility, I like support, I like community, and I like creativity. Awesome. Freedom, flexibility, support, creativity, community. Those are your 5 ingredients for your recipe, and those are the only 5 things you have to focus on from now on. Those are my 5. You find your own 5. Do you feel me? Right? Okay. Freedom, flexibility, creativity, authority, and support. Now I have a list of things that I can look for in every single moment. Where's creativity? Where's flexibility? Where's community? Where's support? And just go through your list and give yourself permission just to try, just to play. And if you take a baking class and it turns out you're a really fucking shitty baker, then make yourself a plaque that says the world's worst baker and hang it on your wall with pride. Put it on your resume, right? Education, baking class, failed, world's worst baker, whatever. Have fun with it. Give yourself permission to be free. Give yourself permission to explore. Give yourself permission to experiment, to fail, to succeed, to try, to abandon, to not care, to be obsessed. Like go through the whole gamut and just see what sticks. Just see. Maybe this is an opportunity to be completely radical and go 180 and do the opposite of what people would expect you to do. Maybe this is the time to fulfill those curiosities and indulge just one of those fantasies you had since you were a kid about what you wanted to do when you grew up or whatever the thing is, and then start to document. Wow, I'm surprised. I never knew that I would love photography so much. Just jot that down. Wow, I'm surprised. I thought I was a really good baker, but I'm not. Jot that down. Wow, I'm surprised when I did this thing that I'd always wanted to do and I thought that I would really love, turned out I didn't really love it so much. So you're just giving yourself data, you're giving yourself information, you're giving yourself the things, you're giving yourself the fulfillment of exploring and experiencing the things that you want to explore and experience. So that's what I would do. And I hope that that helps. I think that more than anything, it's realizing that there is no one way to do it. There is no right way. There is no wrong way. There's your way and the way that lights you up and the ways that fulfill and inspire and, expand you and make you all bright and sparkly. And whatever those things are, do that because that's what this planet needs. More people who are bright and sparkly because they're doing what they love and what lights them up. Also, and this is for anybody that is considering a big shift or a 180 or wants to make a break from their path and they're feeling like, God, I just want to do something radical and I want to make change. Give yourself time in between. There's a bridge. There's the life that you have and the life that you hope for or you dream of that or that you're actively creating. And there is a bridge between the two. So when you start to embark from the old way and move towards the new way, there will be a period in the middle when you're on the bridge and you don't know what you're doing and it doesn't make sense. And you may start to second guess and go, wait a minute. I thought I knew where I was headed, but now I don't. Where am I going? And you turn to the other people. What are we doing? Where are we going? Here's the thing. You don't stop on the bridge. You don't live on the bridge. You don't set up camp on the bridge. You might spend the night on the bridge, but the bridge is not where you stop. The bridge is not the place to try to figure it out. The bridge is not where it makes sense. And the bridge is not where anybody knows where anyone else is going. Just keep going. Just keep going and tell yourself, well, there's nothing at risk. There's nothing to lose. I'm doing this because I'm curious. I'm doing it because it's fun. I'm doing it because I want to. How could there possibly be anything at risk by me just exploring something that I'm curious about? Also, don't put pressure on anything to be the thing. That's like picking out your China pattern on the first date, right? Like maybe we should just go for a few months and see if we actually like it. See if it really is fulfilling. See if it really is exciting. See if I really do like you. See if I can watch you, in trying to unravel Christmas tree lights and not lose your shit, right? That's going to tell me who you really are. So give yourself time. Be curious, be free, have fun, and see how it serves you. Don't try to force it to be something that it won't be. If it turns out that it's just a hobby that you can do every night and on the weekends or whenever you have free time and that's enough, awesome. You don't have to force it to become your livelihood. Maybe it's not meant to be your livelihood. Maybe it's meant to be only for you and it's your special time with yourself and your creative energy, and you get to explore and play without having to owe anybody anything, right? So I think deciding first what you want the construct of your life to be woven from, like what is the architecture of your life, feeling, energy, emotion, and experiential words only, and then start filling in the blanks with experiences and things that choose or that match the words that you have chosen as your recipe. I hope that helps. Okay. Yeah, we have a couple more minutes. So you had asked Sophia about the light body. Amar, what are your thoughts on ascension and activating the light body? Do you think our physicality will be a lot more fluid and malleable? I think it already is. I think the light body process and the ascension process, I think, is one that can be a little tricky, because while we do need to be mindful and present with ourselves, and that's just good advice for life, right? Just be mindful and present with yourself. Just pay attention to what's going on underneath the surface. So the ascension and the light body process, yes, it is something that we are, actively present for, right? Our awareness and our willingness to pay attention and to listen and to do our inner work. And there's also a point at which, just like any other natural biological process, it's going to take over and you're not going to have to do much of anything but just sit back and watch. I think of it as like puberty or like childbirth, any other natural process, like, childbirth. Let's use that as an example. For humans, it's 9 months, give or take, is the gestation period for birthing a child. And there is going to be a lot of things that you can do to be a good parent, right? Exercise this way, eat this way, drink these, liquids, do these things, go see this doctor, do this approach, blah, 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 whatever you choose. Right? Just like the spiritual path, there are a bazillion different ways to get to the top of the mountain. There are a bazillion different ways to get to the finish line of birthing a child. And yeah, it does require your presence and your intention and your active participation. And you do have to do things. But at some point, your job is just to breathe and push. At some point, the body takes over and it says, nope, I've got this. I just need you to keep breathing and pushing. That's all I need from you. So it's kind of the same thing. At some point, while we're ramping up to this process, or within this process, because here's the other thing, ascension and the light body activation are not a destination. They are not a finish line. They are a point on a multi-layered infinite journey. So to say that my 2-year-old self has nothing to do, my prepubescent 2-year-old self has nothing to do with my post-pubescent young adult 18-year-old self, totally false. Yeah, they're different phases and different stages of the same, organism, but to say that they're not connected to each other is untrue. It's kind of the same thing. Your experience now is ascension. Your experience now is light body activation. And I see a lot of this happening in spiritual circles, which I find to be really, really fascinating, because out of one side of our mouths, people are saying, oh, well, you create your own reality. It's what you choose. It's what you believe. And then the other side of the mouth, they're saying, oh, I can't wait until ascension happens. I can't wait until my light body activation happens. I don't know when that is, but it's not now. No, girl, stop it. Why are you shooting yourself in the foot? Ascension is a process. It is not something that you snap your fingers and it happens. It's not a light switch. There's no way that the current physicality of the human body can go from what it has been to what it is becoming like that. It would be obliterated. And the whole point of this round on this planet is to ascend while in the body, to ascend while on the planet and alive and breathing. So that is going to require something a little more meticulous, a little more planned out, and a little bit more intentional than just an instantaneous snap your fingers and it's done. So light body activation is already happening. Ascension is already happening, and there are layers, there are processes, there are parts of the evolution, and there are stages. And certainly as we reach a certain, conclusion or culmination of a stage, it will ramp up and it will speed up, and activations will seem to be a lot more active, for lack of a better word, but it's not like it just happens one day. We are in the process of ramping it up. Yes, Susan, it's evolving. We are evolving. So it is a deliberate and consistent process, but it is not an on-off switch. And I think, as we're talking about physicality becoming more fluid and more malleable, this is what I'm seeing with so many people on the planet freaking out about transgender individuals and gender identity and people choosing pronouns that don't necessarily align with how someone would perceive them physically with their eyes. What this is pointing us to is what's the word I want? The fluidity of identity. Spirit is. Spirit is not a female. Spirit is not a man. Spirit is. God is not a man. God is not a woman. Spirit is. Gender is different than your biological sex, right? So what we're starting to see is how fluid it really is. What we're starting to see is this old idea of good and bad, black and white, man and woman, up and down, left and right, blue and red, Republican, Democrat. What we're seeing is the collapse of this insanity, the collapse of this limitation. And this insanity is only insane when it's outside of the third dimension. This is what's important. Within the context of the third dimension, polarity and duality make sense, right? They make sense because that is the reality of the third dimension. It's push-pull. It's good or bad. It's light or dark. But as we expand outside of the limitations that are inherent within a specific bandwidth, what is available to us, what we are able to do and access also expands and changes. The idea of gender is completely different in the third and fourth dimensional realities than it is in the fifth and above. So these spiritual folks who think that somehow they're going to eradicate anything that isn't natural or God's law outside or beyond of the third dimension, do they really think that, oh, let's just get rid of all the trans people and all the queers and all the drag queens, and then we can get into the fourth and the fifth dimension where none of that shit exists? Girl, that is like the opposite. What the fuck are you smoking? That's not how it happens. God is not excluding people that you don't like. That's not how it works. So it's the opposite. As you ascend, you become less defined. As you ascend, your identity is more fluid. Your gender is less important. Your density of your physical reality and how you present yourself to the visual eyes is a lot more of your choice and a lot less rigid than you would expect. So if you think that somehow things are going to become more rigid and less fluid and more defined in the higher realms, girl, you're going to be fucking disappointed. If you want good or bad, right or wrong, stay in the third dimension because that's the only place it exists. So that's how I feel, right? I present as male. I consider myself to be a man, and I also consider myself to be queer. And I'm also incredibly feminine in my energy signature. The bulk of my chart, if you look at my astrological chart, I am all feminine energy. It is nothing but feminine energy in my chart. And here I am, male presenting. That's my identity. My pronouns are thou, thine, and that's how I choose to present myself. But that doesn't mean that that's what I am. This is the suit that I have chosen to wear for this lifetime. But the minute that the story of Amar is over, this thing turns into dust, and then I am back in this non-local, undefined state of beingness. So for anybody who is watching and is believing the current psychotic storyline that transgender is somehow bad or corrupt or evil or dark, girl, the idea of two-spirit individuals or a third gender has been around longer than your ass. These concepts and ideas are ancient. There are tribes that have been here far longer than any Western society that have believed in this shit for centuries, for millennia. So this idea that all of a sudden like this new trans thing is like this horrible, awful thing we need to be afraid of. Girl, it's as old as dirt. Now, I do have my opinions about someone who is not 18 being able to make decisions about their body that are irreversible, but that's my opinion. That's not up to me. That is up to the child and the parent. I don't have a child. I'm not a parent of a child. So what happens between a parent and their child is none of my business. And I don't think it's healthy to give a child who can't even vote and can't even drive the authority on making decisions that will permanently change their body. But that's me. And I don't think that my beliefs or my opinions should stop anybody else from exercising what is true for them. So mind your own business. If you don't like what you're hearing or seeing, then change the channel, girl. That's how I feel about it. There you go, my friends. Happy Tuesday. See you tomorrow for day 29. 2 days left, 29 and 30. That's it. Then on Saturday will be the tarot forecast. And in the meantime, I have a really, really exciting new series that I'm launching tomorrow with my friend Shannon. So keep your eyes open for that. I'm going to have those videos launching directly after this tomorrow. So I think at like 11 tomorrow, I'm going to start releasing the videos of this new series. So come back, check it out. Love you all so much. Like, share, and subscribe. If you want to offer some financial love, the links are in the description below. If you want to buy my book on Amazon, Notes from the Higher Self by me, Amar. Thank you if you have purchased it. I really appreciate it. And if you have purchased it, please take a couple minutes to leave me a review. 5 stars only. Love you.